This is Betsy Jensen, and you are listening to Unstoppable Body and Mind, episode 137, The Healing Power of Dance with Jake Trembath. In this podcast, we learn to upgrade our brain and understand the power of our thoughts, to heal and to create the results we want in our life. Become the person in control of your healing and make peace with your life. Become unstoppable, body and mind. Hey everyone, welcome. Today we have a special guest, Jake Trembath. Hey Jake.
Hey.
Welcome. So he's a local to Utah dance teacher, and I brought him on the podcast today because dance has really played such an important role in my life, and he talks about it in a way that I haven't heard other people talking about it, in ways like rewiring your brain and the flow state, things like that, that really relate to what I talk about here on the podcast and about your nervous system. Jake, about you, could you tell us first just like what got you into dancing and how you ended up teaching it and doing retreats and things like that?
Yeah. So I was interested in dance back in late parts of high school. I started going line dancing up in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'd go every Tuesday night, get back home at like midnight, 1 o'clock. And it was like one of my favorite nights of the week. But it's just line dancing. And then I went to college and I took a couple of classes, actually just one class, partner dancing. And then I got married and stopped dancing. Just doesn't, it happened a couple times. And anyway, then I went through a divorce. And after the divorce, dancing was like my social outlet. It was the place I felt most comfortable for the most part. It was a place to get social back in my life. And so I started going to the Westerner on, it was like 2 or 3 nights a week. And then there's a place called 669. It's called Infinity Event Center or something like that. I can't remember what it's called now, but anyway, so I went there Thursday nights, Westerner, Friday, Saturday. Yeah. So that
How
was
many years ago was that, roughly?
5.5 years ago.
Okay. So pre-COVID and
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
It was the year before COVID. Yeah.
Year before COVID. Okay. So you started dancing, and then how did you get to teaching it and seeing it in this different way of just rather than just a social outlet, like you're teaching people how to retrain their mind through dancing?
Yeah. Good question. It happened authentically with my growth and my healing journey. So I would go dancing and I just went through a divorce and I was like figuring out that I was not the greatest communicator and not the greatest a lot of things. And so I was like obsessed with the psychology of humanity and everything that goes on for people. So I was obsessed with like communication styles, and I was obsessed with fear and how that enters your system and trauma bonds. And anyway, just like everything that I feel like I got stuck in before became obsessive in my brain. I have to figure this out. I honestly had no idea that I was stuck. Like you go through divorce and you're like, all right, how much ownership do I take? And like, where do I shift my reality? And I just decided to take as much ownership as I could. And I just started attacking everything. So I was going through that as I was learning how to dance. And then I actually went through a retreat called Surrender. I was realizing that I got this position where I thought I knew things. That beginning stage of like you feeling pretty solid about reality, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I really don't know anything. And these ladies that are kind of mentors to me, they invited me to a retreat called Surrender. I just felt like I needed it. I was like, okay, whatever. And I show up, and it was this entire process that I went through where I shed different parts of me. I danced by myself. At one point, I was held by this grandma, and she was just like a classic grandma that bakes cookies and just like one of those, like, I don't know, classic grandma. And I have what I feel like is mother wounding and feminine wounding. And so she just held me as I just went through my childhood and processed and cried and wept. And it was like a bitter, absolute bitter pain. Anyway, shortly after this, I came through the other side of that. And I was like, I feel like I was actually starting to move the pain that I'd been holding most of my life. And I just felt like dancing. And so I just danced and I moved my body and I looked at myself in the mirror and actually liked myself for the first time. And just like, I went through this experience where my perspective on everything shifted like in an instant. And that next week, I had a first kiss with someone and I moaned. My body just let out a moan. And I was like, whoa, sorry, that's embarrassing. And she was like, no, that was really hot. And I was just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's new for me. And
Yeah.
so that
Amazing.
happened. That happened. And I noticed that my dance, because I was already dancing a little bit at the Westerner, my
Mhm.
dance was way more expressive. And that next week, I started having people ask me to teach them how to dance. And so as
Mhm.
I was going through my own expression and like learning how to connect with myself and my body and gaining more confidence, suddenly I was only in this like 3 months, 4 months, and people started asking me, hey, can you teach me that? And so I was like, sure. And so I started being open to the idea. And then all of a sudden I got a studio space where I could teach at.
Mm.
And so suddenly I was teaching dance lessons. And then as I was working with people, I was noticing that all these things were correlating. I was noticing that people's attachment styles were showing up. And so people that were anxious, you could feel it in their energy,
Mm.
in their connection with you. So if they were anxiously attached in their partnership, you could feel it. And I was like, this is going to sound weird, but I just read this book called Attached. Do you know your attachment style? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm actually anxious. I'm like, that's crazy. That's what I was thinking. So then I
Yeah.
started populating all this data and realized that your body's a somatic memory bank. Like it just holds
Yes.
what you perceive the world to be.
Yes. Amazing. Yeah. Because I talk about the mind body stuff here. And that is what I really wanted to hit on is you actually, it shows up in your dance style, in your expressions, in your body language. And we may think that we can just process all of the things in our head. And sometimes we're not even aware, like you said, there's things to process, but dance could bring that out. I know
Mhm.
for me, it brought out a lot of my personality traits that I struggle with, comparing myself, being critical of myself, being jealous of other people. It just brought out, I felt like I was in junior high again. And it was like bringing out all of these the personality traits that could show up in other areas of my life for me to work through dancing. And I just would always remind myself, like, this is fun. This is for fun. And it would change how I would dance, right? I could have one dance with someone and kind of be freaking myself out and showing up super anxious, I'm sure. And then remind myself, like, this is fun. This is fun. And then the next dance, have the best dance and just have so much fun and probably actually dance so much better than when I was in my head thinking of the proper way to dance.
Yeah, it's a fascinating journey, and we're the thing that gets in our own way. It's like people come back and they're like, oh,
Mhm.
sorry, I'm rusty, and excuse. And I'm like, that's your belief system that has now penetrated your reality. And now it's showing up in your dance world. Like in this place where
Yes.
you're here meant to have fun, your belief system that you could be rusty or that you're no good at dancing, whatever, it starts showing up. It takes an override, a conscious override to help people be like, look, this is an opportunity to rewire how you think the world is, how you perceive yourself to be. And so I'm sure you're familiar with EDM, or not EDM. I can't even think of the therapy now. EMDR.
Oh, yeah. EMDR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
EDM music is great to dance.
EDM music. Yes. Also familiar. Yes.
The EMDR is it's a way to rewire how your brain processes information. But
Mhm.
basically, it's just tapping you into your body and then helping you rewire the pathways.
Mhm.
Dancing consciously with the appropriate mechanisms, pathways, encouragement, reparenting, all that stuff, it rewires at the quickest rate that I've ever seen in my entire life. And when you're having fun, I'm sure you're familiar with
Yes.
this, that
Yes.
you wire 20 times faster, create new neural pathways. So normally it takes about 400 reps to create a new neural pathway in your brain. But when you're having fun, it only takes 10 to 20 reps. You
Mhm.
get those in serotonin and dopamine running through your system. And you're feeling all of those natural chemicals that your body produces. And then you're doing that in the process of creating a new neural pathway saying, hey, I can be in a partnership with this other person and have a fun time. And I don't have to be scared.
Mhm.
A lot of us are coming from relationships where we were lied to or betrayed or controlled or manipulated. And so we have all this fear built up around masculine, feminine containers. And so we show up that way in our dance inadvertently. It just kind of happens. We get triggered back
Mhm.
to our junior high school self where all those triggers started happening, all the
Yeah.
traumas or whatever. And then we have the opportunity through dance or whatever your choice of vehicle is. I just find dance to be the most effective to then wire this efficient pathway that allows you to have more healthy containers. And then you can find people that are willing to dance with you and play with you and grow with you. And you're going to find that it dance is the greatest exposer of truth. And so, because it's just your body expressing how you perceive the world to be. And so, how you show up in one thing is how you show up in all things. And so, it's just going to show up a certain way. And then that gives you the opportunity to be like, hey, am I going to grow through this? Am I going to get stuck in this? Am I going to go through this? Am I going to grow with someone else? Can I grow with someone looking at me? Do I need to go home and do I need to just get in my own body and become my own safe place? Anyway, so there's all these opportunities for seeing and assessing through dance. And so that's what I've built, and that's what we've built we've got a whole curriculum around it of just helping people work through all these things, getting to a place where they can move through their masculine, feminine wounding in a really healthy, safe space. It's
amazing. How do you feel like self-love affects people's dance?
This is, if I could change any one thing in any person, it would be the self-love switch. And so that's one of the first things that we work on.
Yeah.
So most of us have this inner critic dialogue that goes on in our head. We're just beating ourselves up. And for some reason in this area, in this region of Utah, it is super prevalent. A lot of us are coming from trauma bonded, betrayal bond situations where someone scared the crap out of us and told us that we needed to act a certain way. You need to act a certain way. And so even though that abuser is no longer in our life, whether it was a parent or a church leader, a school leader, a boss, even though that person is no longer in our life, we then carry the stick and beat ourselves with it. And so what we do is we help them see that stick is not them. The yes, they're beating themselves up, but it's not, the voice is not actually their voice. And so the very first thing that we look at with most people is that inner critic dialogue, what it looks like, how to retrain it and how to reframe it. And so we reparent ourselves, providing adequate masculine structure and feminine nurturing, and help people build a safer environment in their own system so that they can have self-love and so they can manifest self-love. Because if you show up to a dance and you hate yourself, it's going to show up and you're going to project onto your partner, oh, you're doing something wrong. You're messing up my dance.
Yeah.
Practicing so long and you don't know the steps. And it's like that kind of thing starts showing up and it creates a really unhealthy energy. And I've seen it hundreds of people in the dance world. I've created a different pathway into the dance world that doesn't care so much about steps and about footwork. And like all these things are so technical and no one cares.
Yeah.
Like, great, care about steps all you want. Go do it with your own friends. Be judgmental of each other that they're not stepping right or not counting.
Yeah.
My friends over here.
Right. Yeah. I had to learn that kind of by experience where several times I would like almost scream or I would be like, I messed up and make a big deal of it. And it really disrupted the flow of the dance. And I would go back to what was that supposed to be? And guys are like, I don't know. That wasn't even a thing. I just raised my arm and you could do whatever. And I finally realized like it didn't have to be a certain way. I was very much raised in this binary, good, bad. Am I doing it right? How can I be more perfect at it? And that's what it brought out in me at first that I got to learn about and work through was this thought of there's this doing it right. And so again, as I turned it into something fun, it was more about if you quote unquote mess up, making it almost look like you meant to, or going with that flow. There is this little hiccup and you didn't expect it. And then you just like almost make it seamless. And that can be the game. And really just, you could dance. We're not saying just go and dance. It's universally going to heal you, right? But in this certain context and with self-love and with that approach of connection, all of those kinds of factors are going to affect how dance affects you and what you're getting from it. Yeah.
We have a tendency to follows typically want to know what to do, and leads typically want to know moves. And that's like the structure that people come in with. They're like, oh, tell me. And then the lead is tell me moves, show me moves. And that's the whole energy of, that's what everyone brings in. And immediate reframe is really necessary to be like, look, it's not about the movement, it's about the connection. If you connect with your partner, she's going to have more fun than if you send her through 1,000 movements by proper tension. And so we do teach, we have basics like about tension. We get rid of the footwork because the footwork is it just gets in people's heads and they kind of miss the point. So we get rid of the footwork. We talk about tension. and how to keep conversation alive. So if you imagine, like right now, we're talking to each other, there's constant dialogue. When you're dancing, you always want to be able to feel your partner. And so you're always looking for tension. And although they think that if I'm pulling, then you should come through, and then they crash into me and we just lose that tension. So what's interesting is you actually want to create tension. The masculine and feminine are naturally balanced in opposite directions. They're not balanced towards each other, they're balanced away, which creates tension. And so there's constantly either push tension or pull tension in the dance. And that's how you stay communicating. If you keep that dialogue open, you then to co-create at a new level. Anxious person, when they're pulled, they'll crash into the other person because they're like, oh, you want me to come to you? So they'll crash through and lose the tension. The avoidant person will pull away and just disconnect a lot. And they'll always have their body turned away. And so what the magic sauce is to realize that tension is actually good. It's good. The Way of the Superior Man.
Oh, no, I haven't.
It's an interesting book. It just talks about how, and it just talks about from the masculine perspective, but it shares both and it's fairly balanced. A masculine person or a feminine person is going to attract their opposite.
Yeah.
It happens. And then the person's going to frustrate you because they're your opposite, but it's time to help you grow. What we're looking to do is embrace the opposite nature of the other person and understand that the lead is leading the structure of the dance and the follow is leading the flow of the dance. And so understanding that allows us to then take our roles and just move with them. So many times it's like, I'll be leading part of the dance and then the follow will just take off in a different direction and just lead her own thing, which is fine. I'll play with that. It's not a problem, but it's like most follows want to get fully into their feminine, and that looks like water. It doesn't look like the banks of the river. It looks like water. And when you're feminine, you have to appreciate and rely on the structure that the masculine provides within that structure. And so understanding that balance is really crucial. And if you're masculine and you want to learn how to play in your feminine, great. We'll play that way. There's people sometimes are like, we'll get frustrated with one side of the other. I might be a girl, but I'm more masculine. Great. Play in the masculine side. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Take a side and understand that we're polarizing on purpose so that we can learn those roles really well.
Yeah. That's amazing. That dynamic and that balance is so important, and having the flow with the structure. So have you seen how that affects people outside of their life as well?
Big time. This is a great question. I've watched people come into this space hyper masculine and they want to be feminine. And so you see them constantly going back to their natural leading or leadership. You have to have, we call them bumpers, but they're just like little bumpers that keep you reminding yourself, oh, stay in flow, stay in connection, trust your partner. There's all these little reminders, slow down, focus on the connection. And that allows this person to then feel what it feels like to be led. And some people connect it to God or the universe and they'll be like, oh, like that's the lead. And so they get into flow and just trust the lead is leading them in a good path. And I've watched that change people's lives. I've watched so many people enter into healthy relationship dynamics, just like a month of working with us or me, because they're suddenly like, oh, okay, now they have an actual solid working model of what healthy feminine and healthy masculine looks like. I'm going to stay in this position, and that allows him to stay in this position. When someone is in the feminine and they start taking leadership roles, the masculine oftentimes will become emasculated and stop showing up. It's like, oh, you asked me to do this thing and then you did it yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't need to do that anymore. And then they start to lose their feeling of neededness.
Yeah.
I don't know what that word is.
Feeling needed. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying.
And vice versa. If the lead gets into the flow side of things, you'll hear things like, I don't feel like I'm dancing from the follow. It's because the lead is doing work and they're not providing any space or structure for the follow to flow.
Yeah.
Tossed around the room. And that's very common coming from like the more country styles because they're very more like speedy and fast. And it's just like beat is just moving. And slower dance styles, it allows so much more flow and feminine energy to enter the dance. But yeah, so I've seen it time and time again. One of my instructors, Ken, he talks about it all the time, how he learned how to set and create a more healthy masculine structure because of dance, because he saw what it looks like in dance. And so it allowed him to understand what it means to truly be in his masculine energy. And so, yeah, I see it all the time. It's like the most powerful tool for rewiring that I've ever seen, ever by.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah, I've been just screenshotting little things like quotes about dance. And there's things everywhere from it improving your memory and preventing dementia and social connections and little stories about it. I remember a story about one girl, she had Down syndrome and she was in high school and they didn't think she could be on the dance team and she did. And it helped her grades and it helped her social life and it like affected every area of her life because she had dance in her life. So I always love those studies about dance. And there's one that Dr. Schubiner, he's in this world, one of my favorite teachers, they did a meta study of all of the treatments for depression, drugs and different treatments. And the best treatment overall, meta study of all these thousands of studies, was dance. Dance was the best form of treatment for depression overall. So, yeah, I definitely think it shifts my mood, it elevates my mood. And I was like, I discovered some dancing, some swing dancing in college, and those were my favorite nights. I was like Thursday and Saturday, and I look forward to those nights. And I was just like so happy when I was dancing, and it just had this post-dance glow. And so there is a lot to the physicality of the movement, but it's so much deeper too. And especially if you're getting into partner dancing and getting into the depths of the masculine and feminine and the tension and the flow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's a beautiful tool. So it's like it's a drug. Like it is literally like a
Yeah.
it's your body's natural drug, right? It's oxytocin, serotonin, dopamine. But if it's not used, you can use it just as, oh yeah, something to numb out or whatever. Which a lot of people, I can't tell you how many people tell me that dance is their therapy. Going to your therapist and then repeating your same reality is not ideal. Like the idea of a therapist is to go work through things, but then create new pathways and new.
Yes.
So the only way out of like dance is the drug that attracts. It's just it's fun, it's playful, it's connected. You're playing into little relationships, but it's very important to utilize that as a tool, just like any other thing. So there's all sorts of medicines that are great, but they're only great if you're using them functionally to rewire on purpose. And so dance as a tool to rewire is really helpful. And so it teaches really great deep lessons. There's limitless things you can learn from the masculine and feminine, like just learning how to balance. Just that simple balancing act is enough to, I would think that it would take you through the rest of your life, learning how to be masculine and feminine. And I know a lot of people that use it as a getaway, and that's totally fine. People can do whatever they want. As a tool to rewire, it is extremely effective. And so I think you've done that through college, like having that. And for me, it was just a getaway at first.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Like I do think back to the EDM, it's more that repetitive and you're just, and it does feel good, the physicality of just moving your body. And there could be so much more to it too when you're doing it with intention. And you talked about safety, creating safety. Could you talk just a little bit more about that? Because I think that's important.
Yeah. So just like what you're talking about with self-love, if I could change any one thing about any person that would make the greatest impact on their life, it would be how they treat themselves, how they see themselves, their self-love. Like adding a self-love practice, just like anything else, changes your reality forever. If you can just start being nice to yourself, it's a practice. Just be nicer today than you were yesterday. And you'll start getting better at it. And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, I'm good at being nice to myself. That is how you create safety for yourself. You can also do that with other people. So we have an inner critic, we have an outer critic. Outer critic happens a lot when the focus of dance is like the steps or the footwork or this is how it's supposed to look or the style. It's all those things you can tell I have a little bit of frustration about because I showed up in the dance world and people are weird. I had so many people telling me, you're doing that wrong, this wrong. And I'm just like, the hell? Like leave me alone. Like I do not claim to be in the dance world. Like it is like the weirdest. They're very technically minded. They care about a lot of things that I don't care about. And it's really frustrating to deal with them because they're really rude. They're like, oh, you're not a great dancer. You make like this. It's just like they're very unconscious and just the focus is not safety. It's not fun. It's not connection. The focus is, are you doing it right? And then also create this environment of it doesn't feel safe because you're showing up and you're like, this person's constantly judging me and I don't really want to be here. then you're just like, oh, I hope that person doesn't ask me to dance. And I know people that they've been dancing 10 years. And so they just think that they're the authority. And so they
Mm.
tell everyone what they're doing wrong and how to fix it. And it's just, dude, get the fuck. It's just like really frustrating.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so creating safety is like the most important thing. And what I found early on in my dance journey was that the people that created the most safety for me brought out the best dance in me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All of a sudden you're like, how did my body even know to move like that?
Right.
And yeah, you didn't even realize you could do it, but
Yeah,
you're just in that inspirational state of playfulness and creativity, and it just comes out.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they would just create that safe little environment for me. And then all of a sudden, and I'm a number, like my brain works in numbers. So I was like, man, I'm like 15% better when I dance with this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy was it showed me that I was better than I thought I was. Like I'm average. And then I dance with these people that just are like so safe and inviting and encouraging. Hey, that was a great move. That was fun. I love the dance. All that energy just helped me feel like $1,000,000. And the
Mhm.
dance was better. And then it was like that was my new standard. And then I would dance like
Mhm.
that with everybody. I was like, this is the coolest like correlation. And then I would dance with them again and get another 15% better and another 15% better.
Mhm.
These people I consistently danced with created these amazing safe environments for me to just show up and blossom. And I realized that I could do that for my partners as well. And then I realized I could do that for an entire community. And so now we have an entire community full of safe, loving connection. Soul Coast community is it is the most beautiful thing that I've ever been a part of. It feels like this beautiful garden where everyone feels like they have the freedom to blossom and bloom. I feel like we're just a bunch of random people that just are on the same journey and path of healing and growth and looking for deeper connection in their life. And it's so beautiful that I've got people showing up. We'll run an event and people are coming from 2 states away. I've got people
Yeah.
that have moved to the state for the opportunity to be part of the community. There's so many beautiful things happening because of what we've created.
Yeah.
But the safety that you're talking about, it is the most beautiful thing first with self and then with partner. And then unequivocally, people blossom in those spaces, better about themselves. There's this book called Multipliers that I love. And the book just talks about how some people just bring out the best in everybody around them.
Mhm.
We all have the opportunity to do on the dance floor. For
Yes.
3 minutes, we can just bring out the absolute best in our partner.
Yes. Oh, so inspiring. Here's a question for you. We haven't talked about this at all, so I'm curious about your answer. Have you seen it help anyone with their health, with how they're feeling in their body, either like chronic pain type of issues or general health issues?
Yep, absolutely. So one of my best friends in the whole world, Katie, her throat stopped swelling up. She was able to express herself through the.
Mm.
We've seen people come from chronic fatigue,
Yeah.
even people after paralysis. We've had a few students that are
Wow.
straight, like literally like hardly movable, and like all the endorphins and serotonin and oxytocin running through the system just wakes their body back up. We've had
Mhm.
a lot of people get back into health, lose weight as people. This one's a really cool correlation. As people start to see themselves differently, they can then show up differently. And so one of the things with one of my students, this is one of my first students, and she was feeling very heavy in her dance, and she told me about how she felt heavy and she was a burden and all this stuff. I'm
Mm.
sure we can all have felt that at different points in our life. But I was like, all right, let's gain some consciousness around how your feet move. And so we just got her up on the balls of her feet, started feeling light. And suddenly she felt like she was dancing on a cloud. And she told me that. She said, I feel so light. I feel like I'm dancing on a cloud. And within a month, she had lost like 20 pounds, and she'd been trying to lose weight for years. And it was just like this perception of self allowed her to reframe and be like, I'm light. I am like one with the clouds. And so she just started showing up lighter and lighter, and she literally lost weight from it.
Yeah.
So I've seen
Amazing.
I've seen so many cool things from it. People getting their bodies back. I've worked with people that are in their 60s, 70s. I think I've even had a couple students in their 80s
Oh, wow. Cool.
regain regain their body's function and movement because it's exercise, right?
Yeah.
A couple of my students are bodybuilders, and they already have this inherent consciousness to their body of it so much, but allows them to get out of the structured like body build and into the flow of feminine energy or whatever it is. So I've seen so many cool correlations between health, movement, dance. Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Obviously, to me, it was a question I was guessing that you would answer that way, because we know so much about neuroscience with chronic pain of it being related to fear. And there's a lot with fear of movement, that people may have had a prior injury and they're afraid to move in a certain way. And when they can do it in a playful way and rewire those patterns, then their brain starts to conceive that those movements are safe and it produces less and less pain. And that actually happened with me. There's a lot of head rolling that I was trying to do when I first started dancing. And I think because I grew up when they were in aerobics, they would train you not to go all the way around. You could only do a half circle because it was dangerous to do a full circle. So I think just in my mind, I had this subconscious like fear of doing these full circles. And sometimes my neck would hurt when I would do it at first. But I always like to experiment with myself. And I'm like, okay, I don't think my neck is really injured. So I would just keep reminding myself, like, this is just for fun. Your neck loves moving in these ways. It's healthy for it to move in all these different ways. And that pain got less. And now I don't have it at all when I do those neck rolls. And I really think that I was causing myself that pain subconsciously because my upbringing was like, this is dangerous. You've got to protect. And that just is one little example of how you can cause/relieve your own neck pain just because of beliefs.
Right. So I'm coming from an avoidant attachment style. And so that was showing up in my dance. I was constantly turning my body away from my partners.
Oh, wow.
And it's so funny because you can see it. It becomes a polished, pretty thing, and it becomes part of your styling. But it's like you can see where it came from because I had a hard time being fully present with my partner. So I'd always turn. I'm always like doing side motions. My distance was there. And so I had to really consciously, the idea is that you show up on one part of a spectrum. The idea is that you want to just stretch it out so you can play on the whole thing. So if you're feeling like you can dance really heavy and you have really thick and heavy connection with your partner, then learn how to play it light. And then the idea is bringing consciousness to all of it, but realizing that we probably are bringing something to the table, just like in our relationships. Oh, I have a weird neck thing, or I have a attachment, or people that show up with, oh, I have a skin condition. I'm broken in this way. I'm broken in that. And I just laugh along. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I even noticed I had this belief I'm not a dancer because I grew up doing gymnastics. And so girls my age, like my friends would either go to dance or go to gymnastics, or maybe they played an instrument or something. So I was like, I am not a dancer. But at what point, like what even defines a dancer? I had to just be like, this is actually holding me back from my progress because I'm limiting myself by this story that I just made up. It doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't have any truth. So the truth is, I just love dancing. And if I believe I'm not good at it, I will hold myself back. And if I believe that because I didn't start it in my childhood, I'm never going to be as good as someone else, then that's how it's going to show up, right?
True.
Yeah.
I think I have a tendency to just joke around with people whenever they're like, oh, I'm not a dancer. I'm like, oh, so you're telling me that humans since the dawn of time have danced. Every human, every civilization ever. But you're the one that just broke the chain. No longer. It's like humans and you're not a dancer. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like this concept that, oh, suddenly I showed up and I'm not a dancer. It's just
Yeah.
like everyone is whatever you think you are.
Yeah. It was literally like a year into dancing that I was finally like, wait, I guess I could not drag myself down by thinking I'm never going to be good at dancing because I didn't start. It's just so fascinating. But again, it brings out those deeper things if you go into it with that consciousness and you're seeing it as a mirror of reflecting your subconscious state, maybe.
Absolutely. And I think this is one of the more fascinating ones. So it goes as deep as you want. This is, oh, I'm not a dancer, I'm a dancer. And then there's, I believe that I'm a burden. That one's huge. And so then you are withholding yourself from your full energy is no longer present. And so you're giving a fraction of yourself to the world. You have 10% of who you are. So you're then attracting people that can only handle 10% of who you are. Then you're recreating the story. So there's certain moves in dance where you want to give your whole weight to your partner.
Mhm.
Those people, as soon as I ask for their weight, they don't give it to me. They give me like 10%. They give me like a little fraction of who they are. And it's, girl, you are never going to rewrite this story if you still think that you're a burden. I, in my masculine energy, can handle all of you to this dance with you. If you're only going to show up
Mhm.
10%, you're going to attract the guys and the leads that are not your match. You're going to attract the people that
Right?
hold 10% of you, who should be
Yeah.
paired with people who giving their 100% are only your 10%. And so I watched these things happen, and it's like, in dance, for me, it just reveals what's going on in the inner workings. And the I'm a burden is a very common thought that a lot of people have. Not a
Mhm.
big deal. We all have some version of that. And so allowing people to be like, oh, I can give all of my weight to this person, he can hold me. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll laugh at them. I'll laugh at them in the dance, be like, oh, you think that I can't handle all of your weight. It's just like funny. And then
Yeah.
do some movement where I just like lightly pick them off the ground and cover them for a second. They're like, whoa, you can hold me? And it's just like you can watch the gears start breaking in their brain, like, what? They just think they're like heavy and a burden. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
wild and it's so fun to retrain.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see it like you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not doing things right, you're too much, don't take up so much space.
Yeah.
I would apologize if someone stepped on my feet. Be like, sorry, like I was in your way. I'm like, you can take up space. Like you don't have to apologize for just being there. And if they step on your foot, it's probably just as likely their issue. But it's just, yeah, those little things. Do you think it ever like scares people away to hear you talk like this? Oh my gosh, all my secrets are going to be exposed. He can just see all this. Or what do you think about that?
It's super, what I hear, the feedback that I've received is super intimidating. I don't need dance to show what's going on. Like, I just use dance because it seems outside of us. Same exact thing in a conversation, shaking someone's hand. Like,
Yeah.
but it does get intimidating in dance. And so it's a little tricky. It attracts a lot of people. So, like at my dance retreats, every single time for the last 6 retreats I've ran, I've had one or two or three or four people show up and be like, I heard there's someone that can diagnose what's going on in an instant. And that's why I'm here. And I'm like, let's do it. And so like 10-second interaction. I'm like, yep, this is going on, this and this. And they're like, you're right. And thank you. So it's intimidating and it attracts people that are ready for it. And it
Yeah,
repels people that aren't quite ready to face. But
right.
the biggest message that I would hope that everyone gets is, hey, no one cares where you're coming from. You could be coming from a relationship where dishonesty was like a regular thing. And so you don't think it's that big of a deal. But now you're so ashamed of it when it shows up in real life, and you're going to remove yourself from reality of the people that you're dishonest with. So you're not going to be able to work through that thing. Or you could be coming from a relationship where physical violence is regular. And so there's cultures out there where they're very physically violent. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. We get to take you where you're at. And this is the part where a lot of people try not to be seen because they
Mm-hmm.
have this ego, this idea that they're already something. They have a somebody about them. They think they're somebody. They think they've done all this work, and which is fine. It's true, but it doesn't mean that all the areas of your life have been polished up and are refined. So for people, if people could just accept that, hey, no matter how you're showing up to this relationship is fine. We just get to work towards something new. If you want to stay here, great. Stay there. Don't
Mm-hmm.
enter my space. Don't ask me for help. But if you want actual development and change and adjustment, let's
Mm-hmm.
work on that together. I don't care where you're coming from. I just know that we
Yeah.
we all want something different for ourselves. We all want to live in a happier, more joyful, more playful, connected reality. And so
Mm-hmm.
people could just appreciate that. No one cares where you're at right now. It's okay. It's okay if you are 500 pounds and just getting off the couch for the first time. It doesn't matter. We all start somewhere. And it's just a matter of understanding that you're okay where you're at,
Mm-hmm.
understand that you're going to get to where you want to go. And this is just a fast track. I'm not going to judge
Yes.
you on that path. It's just no one, it's hard because I can't speak for the whole dance community because the whole dance community can be very critical. That's why my space very specifically in the community that I've created very specifically is a very safe environment for
Mm-hmm.
that reason, because we have so many people leaving traumatic relationships, abuse, deception, whatever.
Yes.
So my community very specifically is keyed into that. It's
Yeah.
trauma informed leadership. And so it's very conducive to growth in that way.
Hmm.
But I also understand that a lot of people are coming from a very judgmental society and community. And so they don't have a tendency to just want to be seen. They're not like, oh, yeah, look at my stuff. And so it takes a bit of self love, self acceptance, self grace to get to the point where it's just, like, yep, this is all of me. And so, yes. So, long answer to your question. A lot of people are intimidated, but when the people are ready, they just show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's showing up everywhere anyway in your life. And so you might as well address it in the funnest, fastest way. If you can rewire it in any way, rather than doing 500 cold plunges, I'd definitely rather go dancing.
Yep. And
Okay, cool.
I love me a good cold plunge, but I also, there's like just something magical about, and this is the part where I think we were going to talk about, but the flow of connection.
Yes, let's
When
talk
you
about
get in, when you get into that flow state with someone, there is nothing like it on the planet. Because flow by
yeah.
yourself is great. Any of us that have played sports or have a job where we can get into flow, it's really fun. It's like cool to get into the zone. Get in the zone in partnership, it is mind blowing because you're co-creating in flow. And
Yes.
it is what I feel like once you can master that, it is what I feel like gets us to our highest timeline, gets us to the timeline that's going to be the most efficient. Because
Hmm.
in partnership, if you can get there, which again, that's what I think dance is all about, allows us to then create a functional reality of, oh, I can do this everywhere. I can do this in my workplace. I can do this.
Yes.
And so now I'm finding all these places in my life where I can just get into flow. My sports that I play are better because I can get into flow. I can see quickly.
Yes.
My job, my business stuff, I can just get into flow with really quickly. And if you have the same alignment, which is a very necessary key component in my opinion,
Hmm.
same alignment. So say you're on a basketball team, you want to win. That's the goal. You can get into flow in that direction super rapidly.
Hmm.
In alignments, it's very tricky, but
Yeah.
reveal itself in the dance. So if you're doing
Yeah.
business with someone and their alignment is money, they think money is the most important thing. Your alignment is impact or changing the world,
Hmm.
impacting lives, whatever the case. Those differences will start to show up. And you're going to realize you can't get into flow with people that have different intentions than you. It's home tonight, and I just want to play. These are
Yeah. And we can all flow in and out of alignment too, right? It's not here's this person that's always in alignment. They might be having an off day and the dance actually gets them into alignment a little bit more. And so it's not like we're always just that kind of person or not. It's like we're always changing our alignment too. And so yeah, it could be that barometer of like where you're at today and that tuning of how to tune up quicker.
yeah. And one of my favorite things is the community aspect. So if you have a community full of people like the one that we've created in Soul Coast, full of people that are in the same alignment, it just like you said, it's a barometer, and then it clicks you back into the alignment that you want to be in.
Yeah.
Constantly putting yourself into situations and relationships with people that are headed in the same direction. Oh my gosh, life just flows in such a beautiful way. And it's when you're trying to pull people from other alignments. Oh, you care so much about money. Come with me and come care about people instead. For work if they don't want to come. And so but on the alignment of what it is that you feel most called to, then you're just going to find a lot of people in that same area. And dance in my community is that the majority of us are in the same direction. We're headed to the same place.
Yeah, yeah. It's so much deeper than just doing the moves and just moving to the music. And I just love talking about it in this way because, like you said, it can be a reflection of life and especially how you can change things in your body without just going through your mind and a lot of thought work and talking about how we would change those behavior patterns versus like you're physically doing it in a fun way.
Instantly.
Mm, love it. How can people find out more about you and where to, if they can access, if they're near Utah or where else? I think you're doing a retreat someplace else too.
Yeah, we have a few retreats coming up. So we have SoalCoast.Dance has all the information. It'll have all our social medias. SoalCoast.Dance on anything, you'll find us. So Facebook, Instagram. We have Puerto Vallarta retreat coming up. I think it's next month. And then we have a camp out coming out. The camp out is tons of fun. So it's out of the salt flats. We build the dance floor. We put up our speakers, and it is camp out there. It is an amazing night. It's so fun. 12 o'clock, we hit the black lights, and we have all these tapestries, and it just lights up black light in the middle of the desert. It is so freaking cool. So that's coming up next. And then after that, we have a retreat in Puerto Vallarta. And then we're supposed to have a Costa Rica retreat scheduled. We have another retreat in Park City. Okay, so we have a bunch of stuff coming up. We try to do at least quarterly events. We have another one down in Zion.
Mm,
We're
there in Utah.
performing down there, and then we'll have our dance camp set up down there with a portable dance floor. So we have all sorts of stuff coming up. St. George, Salt Lake. We have online content so you can learn how to dance at home.
Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Okay, I'll put all that in the show notes, all of those resources. Very cool. Yeah, I was wondering about what you suggest for people who can't come to you and don't have those resources.
Yeah, the best thing is you can hop on and take some of the online courses. We do have a couple of Facebook pages that will post our weekly recaps. We have a lot of things that we can hop onto.
Amazing. So cool. Is there anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to share? I feel like this has been a great discussion and so fun talking to you.
I think the biggest thing would just be try. It's very rapid. Like instead of these long processes of these drawn out, like you're talking about, where you're like consciously thinking and it takes you years and years to rewire, change things in 2 days. I've seen people rapidly shift in ways that I'd never expected. I watched people going from a year of therapy and constantly writing how much they love themselves, never believing it, to overnight at a retreat. Once they have the neural feedback, new pathway built, and the mirror neurons firing in the community space, I watch them go from never believing that they love themselves to the next day being like, I do love myself. And then watching that transformation overnight. So
that's huge, actually. That really is.
It is it's like peer pressure.
It is.
It is like the first thing.
That's one of everyone's deepest issues usually, is feeling unworthy, not enough, not loving themselves. Like you said, I totally agree with you 100%. If I could change one thing with everyone, it would help their health, their mental health, and their physical health, I believe, to have more self-love.
So the rapidness of the change,
yeah,
it's worth the try. And so if you have a little bit of hope that maybe this would work for you, like just give it a little bit, like just taste it a tiny bit, just try it out. It's so crazy fast to watch how quickly things can change. We have a Netflix documentary that's filming us next week. So
cool.
And I'll give you the information on that too. But
congratulations. Just since I've known you, like, you've really grown and the community has really grown. And that is really due to you in large part, I'm sure, if not all due to you. So
I've got a pretty amazing team. There's 10 of us that are pretty driven and committed to make an impact through dance. But yeah, definitely there's been amazing things that have happened. We're traveling the world now and dancing all sorts of places. The need for what we're doing is pretty clear at this point. And so we're just like, all right, let's just put some time into it. All of us are doing our own thing, and we're like, all right, this is gold. So let's mine this a little bit. Let's create more opportunities for people to connect here.
Absolutely. And it just ripples out and affects everyone's life positively. Congratulations. I'm happy to have you on the podcast and be able to spread that news and these ideas around to more and more people as well. So thank you again for coming.
We should do a dance video and add that to the sunset.
Absolutely. Yeah, good idea. Okay. I'll try to not be anxiously attached in it. Yeah, exactly. Something about being filmed, though, it brings up it's like pressure all of a sudden.
But right. Create a nice, safe environment for each other, and we'll do great.
Exactly. We'll film that. We'll add that on. And yeah, when I was posting a lot of dance videos, and a lot of like neuroscience videos. And people would be like, I love your videos. And all my dance friends would love my neuroscience things. And all my like healing friends would love the dance videos. And it's just a very good symbiotic relationship with healing and dance. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Take care. We'll be in touch. And thanks again. Bye-bye.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about your brain today that helps you in your life like it helped me. Please be sure and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, be sure and share this podcast with someone you know that wants an unstoppable body and mind.